All right, I think we can go ahead and get started. So welcome. Thank you all for joining us. We're really excited to be able to participate in this STARS session, College to Career, with a focus on science, technology, engineering, and math. I am joined by three of my absolutely wonderful colleagues within the STARS network. And so we're just going to go ahead and introduce ourselves quickly. So my name is Ian Gregory Davis. I am Senior Assistant Director at Columbia University. I am also the Program Director for the STARS College Network, and very excited to be here with you all. And I'll pass it off to my colleague Antoine.
Hi, everyone. My name is Antoine Holloway. I am the STARS Program Manager at Georgia Tech, and I'm happy to be here.
Hi, my name is Diane Fekinen. I'm from Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland, Ohio. I'm the Associate Director for Enrollment Management there and also the STARS Program Manager for Case Western Reserve. So I'll pass it on to Melissa.
Thanks, Diane. Hi, everyone. My name is Melissa Rodriguez. I am a Senior Assistant Director of Admissions at Caltech and also the STARS Program Director there. And it's really great to be here.
All right, so just want to give a little background before we get started for those that might be new. This session is being presented by the Small Town and Rural Students College Network, or what we like to call STARS. It is a consortium of colleges and universities dedicated to working with high schools and access organizations to widen pathways to higher education for rural and small town students. So this is currently the collection of schools that are part of the networks. As you can see, 32 schools with a very wide range of both public and private institutions, as well as schools that really kind of are geographically spread out throughout the United States. So there are really a few pillars that the STARS network is focused on. So the first is travel to rural and small town communities. We all are very fortunate to be able to travel together, generally through a few trips both in the fall and the spring, to visit students in rural and small town communities. So it is very likely that we may be traveling towards your hometown or location near you, and you would be able to kind of learn about that on the STARS College Network website. So it's really amazing for us to really be able to connect with students in their hometowns and really get a sense of their experiences growing up wherever they've grown up throughout the United States. We also offer free programs to visit our campuses. So many of the STAR schools are currently offering fly-ins or drive-ins to our campus, all expenses paid, to really get a sense of the kind of campus experience. We are also offering many virtual college access and affordability programs. And this session this evening is just an example of one of the many different types of sessions that are going to be available throughout each year. So we hope that you enjoy the content of this session, and are able to engage with us in other ways if there are other sessions that are of interest to you. And then also offering some internship opportunities. This is primarily geared towards students that are on our campuses, and really focus on providing additional opportunities for rural and small town students when they ultimately come to our campuses. Okay, so that is just overall general introduction to the STARS College Network, but we are of course happy to answer any other questions. We will have a period for Q&A towards the end of the session today, so please feel free throughout the session to jot down some of your questions and send them through the Q&A feature, but we will certainly make sure to get to as many questions as we can. But at this time, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Melissa to give us an introduction to STEM.
Thank you, Ian. Yes, so the topic of this session is to discuss careers and STEM and what you do in college and how that prepares you for those careers in STEM. So what is STEM? You might be familiar with it, or you might have just heard that acronym kind of tossed around a bit. STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And within each pillar, they all kind of have their own type of focus, right? So if we see there on the left, starting with science. Science is a systematic study of the natural world. So whether that is through things like biology or chemistry or physics, they all are exploring the world. They're learning new things. They are investigating and trying to understand things better in different disciplines of science, whether that's physical or chemical, astronomical, like you see there too. Next, we have technology, which is a bit more, it's thinking about things, again, obviously more technically, the applications of things, the systems behind things. How do we improve those types of operations? These can be things like cybersecurity and information technology or IT, but you're going to be thinking about really practical kind of applications for using things like software and other virtual machines. Then we have engineering. Engineering is going to be much more concrete, pun intended, with engineering. You're going to be actively building things, designing things, thinking about how to improve the designs of those things. And again, that can be applied in numerous different ways, whether that is through chemical engineering or mechanical engineering, biological engineering, aerospace engineering, electrical engineering. So you're using any one of those types of focuses to really to engineer things, to create things, design, improve, et cetera, et cetera. And then lastly, mathematics. So kind of the backbone and the foundation of all of these things. It all begins with numbers and math, and mathematics can also be kind of explored in different ways. Sometimes it's more applied and computational, the way that numbers are being used, and other times it's more, again, understanding the laws and the rules of math and more pure based math. And you can see there statistics is another way that folks engage with math, actuarial science, which has to do with kind of statistical analysis with insurance and finance and pension investment, things like that. So there's just a really broad scope, but you can see that the applications are also very kind of specific and distinct, but with really cool opportunities to overlap. And then leading over to that, who is a good fit for a STEM degree? So the types of people that tend to want to explore STEM and then also do well in STEM should typically possess qualities and characteristics. So again, we're speaking to students who are from rural and small towns. This is where I'm going to make a plug that your lived experiences are really important and valid, and it doesn't matter that you don't know how to build a rocket ship yet, right? That's not the important thing, but the important thing is that you have a spirit of a researcher. So the first thing you should want to do is be interested and enjoy doing that kind of research. So do you have questions that you think you would like to solve in the world of science? Are you curious about experimentation and trial and error and failing a little bit to figure out what will ultimately work? That's very much kind of what research will look like. Do you enjoy teaching? Also, do you enjoy learning, right? All of that is a part of the research experience. Service-oriented research is also something that is a part of many of our university missions, that we want to advance humanity through the research that we're doing. And ultimately, the science that we're conducting should improve the world, right? It should be for good. And there are a lot of moral conversations and implications that come into play when we talk about science. And also researchers should be intellectually curious. Again, this is about people that are actively trying to answer questions and figure things out and understand the world, and not just kind of, live in a more passive way. Scientists are very much trying to be, innovators. They must be collaborative and understand that science is done in a collaborative nature. You must be a team player. You must reach across different disciplines and work together to answer these big problems. And lastly, you must be passionate. So you have to really carry, again, a true passion, a true desire, intention, something that keeps gravitating you towards that interest, so that you can continue even when things are challenging, so that you can, again, let that passion kind of fuel you. And yeah, so those are some of the things that I think are good to know as we create a foundation about STEM and what that looks like in college.
All right, so now we're going to move into what we call some common majors and careers in STEM. Melissa's already kind of set the framework for us there in regard to kind of some background on what STEM is, but we're going to go into what we call some common majors and careers in STEM, and then we'll get into some not so common majors and careers involving STEM. So I would encourage you, when you hear a company you may or not have heard of before, definitely go back tonight or in your free time and definitely do some research on that company to kind of find out what they do and just to get some more background information on it. So one of the first majors, obviously, when we deal with STEM is thinking about computer science, right? So computer science, study of computers and how we can use them to solve problems. So thinking about that, you'll find careers like software development. You can be a cybersecurity analyst, and then obviously some very, very familiar companies such as Google, Apple, Microsoft, Meta, Amazon. And then thinking about engineering, we're thinking about the application of math and science used to design and build and improve structures and systems that solve real world problems, right? And so engineering can get even more specific into mechanical, aerospace, robotics, various different areas there. And then thinking about companies like Boeing, Lockheed, Tesla, General Motors, are just a few of the companies that you might see there. Then we get into information technology, right? The use of computers, networks, and software to manage, store, and share data efficiently and securely. So thinking about becoming an IT manager or a network administrator. Here you'll find some more familiar companies like Cisco, Oracle, IBM, Hewlett Packard, just to name a few. So moving on to mathematics, right? Study of numbers and patterns and structures used to understand and solve quantitative and logical problems. We have careers such as an analyst, operations research, actuary, a statistician, or even a mathematician. So once again, you'll find insurance companies here like Prudential, AIG, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, NASA. And then we get into physical sciences. Physical sciences study of non-living things like matter, energy, and how they interact. So here you can become a physicist, you can be a chemist, you can be a researcher, you can work at Pfizer. Those are just some of the companies that you'll see there when we think about physical science. And then lastly, they're studying life science, study of living things like plants, animals, and humans, and then how they live, how they interact with the area around them, just to name a few. And that's how we figure out the mission. I'm sorry, think about so think about life sciences, various companies such as hospitals and healthcares. There is Biogen, there's Genotech, and there's Amgen, just a few of the companies that you may not have heard of, but those are very important companies that do good work in this area as well. If you can go to the next slide, please. All right, now some less common majors, right? So once again, we kind of went over the most common majors that you might think about when you think about STEM, but now let's think about some less common majors that we still can go into and still get into the STEM field. So the first one here, thinking about material science. So once again, study of things and how they're made and their properties that can be changed to make new products. So here you'll find things such as a material sciences, or even a ceramics engineer or a polymer scientist. And once again, some familiar companies such as Google, Microsoft, Apple, Facebook, Amazon. And then we get into bioinformatics, so the use of computers and software to understand biological data like DNA and even proteins. I'm a scientist, you can be a biologist, or you can be a biotech engineer. So you'll find companies here like Genentech, Ginkgo and Bioworks, Thermo and Fisher, and Scientific. All right, thinking about environmental engineering. So thinking about environmental engineering, we're talking about the use of engineering to protect the environment and to improve typically human health. Here you'll find careers such as a air quality engineer, a water research engineer, and an environmental health and safety manager. So there's just some of the companies that you'll find, some of the careers you'll find there. And the companies will be Goder and Associates, Arcadis, CH2M and Hill are just some of the companies that you would see there. And thinking about neurosciences, right? So neuroscience, study of the brain, nerves, and how the nervous system controls our thoughts and feelings, even our actions. So once again, here, you can be a neuroscientist. You can get into neuroimaging technician, or just some of the careers you'll see there. And then some companies can be the National Institute of Health, Allen Institute for Brain Science. There's going to be some of the companies that you'll see there. Into geophysics, geophysics study of the earth, wind, and physics, and understand things like earthquakes and magnetic fields. Here you'll find things like being a geophysicist, being a geologist. You'll find some companies there such as Chevron, even Burton, just some of the companies that you'll see there. And then lastly, they're thinking about astrophysics. Once again, astrophysics is going to be a study of space, stars, and planets, and understanding how we use physics to understand the universe around us. And once again, careers here can be an astrophysicist, astronomer, and then companies such as NASA, European Space, and the Institute for Aerospace. So those are just some things that you'll find there when it talks about some less common majors. And so now I'll turn it over to my next colleague.
Great, thank you. And so we're going to move on to a little bit of a different topic. And so what are some things that you can do as a high school student to prepare for a successful career, or majoring in a specific major within a STEM field? So some things in high school that are things that we recommend are certainly to check with each school or university that you're looking into and look for the requirements for each of their programs. And so each school is going to be a little bit different in terms of what they are asking for their students to have when they're applying to enroll to their institution. For example, at Case Western Reserve University, we require 4 years of math, 4 years of science, 4 years of English, 3 years of social sciences, and 2 years of a foreign language. And while that is pretty standard, it's going to be a little bit different for some schools. So some schools might request that you have very specific courses within high school. So they might require all students that are interested in majoring in STEM to have calculus, to have biology, chemistry, and physics as a high school student. So it's important to go ahead and check those out. One of the ways that you can do that is just to get on the admission website for each of those institutions, and each of them under the application details should have an area where they focus on the requirements for each program or the requirements to apply to the university. So that's a great place to kind of get started. You also really want to focus on really strong foundation in both things like math and statistics, reading, writing, those types of things. You really want a strong base foundation. Sometimes in your high schools, they might offer some really fun sounding classes, and those are terrific. But we will also want you to take those core level classes. So those things like I mentioned earlier, like the biology, chemistry, physics, those are really important for all students that are interested in majoring in the STEM areas. And so making sure that you have those 3 areas before you branch out into some other, or at least in addition to some of those other more unique or common or uncommon courses that might be specific to your high school or region of the country. You also want to look into ways that you can experience research as a high school student. So some of these might be within your high school area. So some schools will have things like senior projects, independent study. They will have research where they are partnering with a local company or a school or another institution locally. So usually you can find out about those things through your guidance office or through the school office. And so you can really kind of ask around and see what types of programs might be available depending on what your interests are. Also, you can ask around within your town or community. And so there might be people that are doing something that just really sounds interesting to you. So don't be afraid to reach out to someone and connect with them and see if there's a way for you to get involved, to shadow, to work on some research. I think getting those hands-on experiences really help you to determine which direction you want to go in. And so from what we just learned from Antoine, there is an endless amount of opportunities, majors, all those types of things that students can choose from. So it's really important to get some experience to see which ones most appeal to you. outside of the classroom, you can also really get involved in some great extracurricular experiences. And so hands-on problem solving. So this can be something that's done within a school, like a robotics club. It could be something that you do personally on your own. You like to rebuild computers, you like to fix tractors, you like to whatever that might be. And so I think it's really important to experience those, have those lived experiences where you're finding something that you really enjoy doing and exploring that a little bit further. As we mentioned earlier, it's some type of shadowing. Internships are great to do as a high school student. And so it can be, again, something that's coordinated through the school, but also don't be afraid to seek out and reach out to people specifically. You know, it can also be in leadership roles. This could be in your local clubs and organizations within your high school. And so taking that active leadership role and really getting involved in the details and organization of how that particular club or organization runs will really benefit you down the road. And then finally, some community-oriented activities. And so you really want to get involved in things that are going on in your community. And those can be some really fabulous experiences. I'm sure we all have people in our towns that we can learn a lot from. So don't be afraid to reach out and ask folks for help. And as you're moving on for life as a college STEM major, and so there's some things that, you know, we kind of often see as sort of a path or trajectory for students that really work well for students that want to go into any type of a STEM major. So moving on to the next slide, we'll start with sort of the high school curriculum. So we touched on this a little bit earlier, but you really want to focus on that high school preparation. And so this is in your course selection. So we have a wide variety of attendees here. So we have some students that are a little earlier in their high school career and some that are going into, you know, their junior and senior year. And so picking these courses are really, really important as you're going through your high school career, certainly if you're interested in the STEM area. So you really want to focus on that math and science preparation and taking courses like calculus, physics, chemistry, biology, computer science. And this is all obviously dependent upon your high school. Every school is going to look a little bit different in terms of what they're able to offer. And so if it's not offered within your high school, you can supplement that education by taking it elsewhere. So some schools will have a local community college or a local college or university that offers high school students the ability to dually enroll in classes there. And so that's a great opportunity where sometimes you can even get on that college campus and take that course. You can do it online sometimes. So just depending on where you're from and what might be available to you, that's a great option for students. If you want to explore, say you've even taken a calculus class in your high school and you want to go to that next level, this is a great opportunity, a great way to dig a little deeper into a subject area that you're really interested in. Another opportunity is Schoolhouse.World. This is a branch of the Khan Academy, but it is a free resource for all students and from small town and rural areas. And so you can get a mastery certification in specific subjects. So they have things like physics, calculus, chemistry, all of those things to where you have a peer tutor that teaches and goes along with you through the modules of each particular course. And then as you're advancing through that module, you'll actually receive a transcript from Schoolhouse.World that you can submit to colleges and institutions showing them your level of mastery within a particular subject. So that's a great opportunity. Another great thing that we see sometimes for students is summer programs. So what types of things can you do over the summer? So we, as a lot of STAR schools, offer rural student fly-ins. As we mentioned earlier, some students will offer a rural student summer program. So you can come and stay on our college campus for, you know, a week, up to 2 weeks sometimes, really immersing yourself in the college atmosphere and kind of seeing what it's like being a student at that particular institution. So you can kind of see what you've really enjoyed doing throughout high school. You can also work on some of those things we mentioned earlier, finding some internships, even a part-time job. This can also be sort of family responsibilities. And so if you have something to where you are, you know, helping someone, you know, that's rebuilding a car or helping someone that is, you know, has a certain company or something within your school or community, that's a great way to get some great work experience and just to have some great experience to add on to your college applications. when you're entering into, that summer into your senior year, and you're really dialing in that college search process, you really want to look at the schools that you're interested in and make sure that they have a variety of majors that you're interested in. And so oftentimes we see students that you don't want to focus too heavily on one specific major, but more of a family of majors. And so you might know that you think you want to do engineering, but you might not be certain which type of engineering. So applying to a school that offers a variety of types of institution or a variety of engineering majors will allow you the opportunity to sample different areas and really find the best fit for you as you go through. Most schools will allow you the opportunity to tweak or change your major. And most of our students, will even, they might not know the exact major they want to go into, but they'll know the direction or some fields of study that particularly interest them. And then the next step is you want to get on those campuses. So you want to get out and visit campuses that are really interesting to you. And you want to look at a variety of types of schools. And so you want to look at some big schools and small schools and urban schools and rural schools and see what's a good fit for you in terms of your personality and your comfort level. And another great way to do this, a lot of our schools have virtual tours. It's a great starting point where you can get online and just kind of walk through. We all also have a lot of virtual sessions similar to this, but for individual for each college. So it's a great starting point to get on those campuses or to virtually visit those campuses and learn a little bit more specific information. You can also visit campuses for us. I always recommend students that try to visit during even an open house day. You might have a little bit more of an opportunity to meet with faculty, to tour specific departments, to get a little bit more detailed information on the programs that you might be interested in. Once you actually are arriving on that college campus, you'll be assigned an academic advisor. And so that person is going to be your guide through your 4 years that really helps you determine your major. If you're going to receive a minor in another area, they'll help you with making sure that you're taking all the required courses that are required for that specific program, but also that you're taking courses that you're interested in. Oftentimes they might have a specific requirement that you're required to take 2 social science classes as part of the undergraduate general education curriculum, but there might be 50 different classes that you can choose from. So they're going to help you try to find classes that are of interest to you, something that instead of just going through and taking the standard class, so it might be a little bit more fun in doing that. And so an academic advisor is going to be great at doing that. They'll also help you with those next steps as far as after graduation. You're going to go and work with the career advising, internships, research. We also have, offices that will help coordinate students that want to apply to graduate programs or professional programs. And so really looking into those schools and seeing what it is that they offer in terms of their career advising. Maybe they host job fairs on campus, maybe, a number of students, what's the percentage of students that do internships or research projects or co-ops on their campus. And so it's just kind of give you an idea of what it's like for the students that are attending that specific institution.
Great. So now we're going to get to hear about some examples of actual students and their journey through STEM and what that looked like. And I'm really excited to start with one of my favorite students, Tessa Pierce, who is a senior now at Caltech. She is majoring in biology. She came in she was interested in biology. At one point was also mechanical engineering, just interested in a lot of different things. She was born in a small town in Washington State of about 2,000 people. And she had always been very interested in medicine and medical science, biology, research, just things having to do with anything health related. So when she was growing up in high school, she became very interested in HOSA, which is a health professionals, kind of an association for students to learn more about health professions, and found her way to Caltech. She was very interested and had explored STEM in ways that really were meaningful to her. And then when she came to Caltech, chose to do a lot of biochemistry coursework. She had the chance to do some research in some of our labs in organic chemistry, and she also got to do research at the University of Iceland through one of our study abroad research fellowship exchange programs, which was really exciting. And now in her senior year, she is rounding out her her internship doing research with the National Institute of Health at the NIH. So she's going to be graduating and moving on to now applying for graduate school programs to see where that will take her. But yeah, Tessa is just a really great testament to rural student who just has a bunch of initiative and passion for these types of careers and exploring them as best she can with what she has available to her, and then just continuing to take those opportunities. And then next, I will go ahead and hand things off to the next student profile, Antoine.
So yes, this right here is a student from Georgia Tech. Her name was Aaliyah Crumbly. So with Aaliyah, she grew up kind of in a small town, which is 44. Town was 44 miles kind of northeast of Atlanta. And so she didn't have a lot of opportunities for advancement as far as taking regular at her high school. So she actually went to another four-year institution first and got some higher grades in math and sciences. And then from there, she eventually transferred into Georgia Tech. And then she started as another major. And so her heart was always with computers and working with computers and being able to, learn about them and just explore them more. And so she decided to change her major to CS. All right. And then as a CS major, um, one thing about the program at Georgia Tech, our program is what they call threaded. And so you choose two threads. And so she chose two threads. And so also at this time, they were in the works of developing another thread. And so what happened was because her threads were closely aligned, she was able to change her threads to one of our new threads, which was cybersecurity and privacy. And so she started that program, did really well in there. But I think what helped set her apart was during her time at Georgia Tech, she was working in the computing advising office. So she had access to advisors to ask us questions kind of offline when we were not working with our own students, but she was able to hear what we were saying, get information because she was a student assistant in our office. And so she was able to learn about the curriculum, uh, what classes to take, and be able to get herself advanced and to make sure when she switched threads, she was able to pick up on things really quickly and get the classes that she needed. And then also during her time, she was involved with the Capstone project where she was actually working with a real life client, being able to help them with things she learned from the classroom. And so then from there, um, because we have a very robust career advising office and a very, very robust academic advising office, she used her experiences from both of those and was able to be one of our first graduates with the thread of cybersecurity. And then now she is going to be working with JP Morgan Chase fall as a software engineer in the asset and wealth management division. So once again, there's various ways you can start your path. And so, like I said, with her, she didn't meet our qualifications out of high school, but she then took another alternative route to get herself advanced and now is doing very well.
Great. Thanks so much, Antoine. All right. Yeah, I just want to quickly share a little bit of information about Hope here. Hope is an engineering student, mechanical engineering, that just recently graduated. But Hope ultimately attended high school in Bergen, New York, with a population of just around 1,200 students, and ultimately arrived at Columbia with really varied interests in engineering. Something that is a little bit different about Columbia is that students that are applying to Columbia do have to choose between our kind of liberal arts school, Columbia College, or the engineering school. So Hope very much knew that she was interested in engineering and ultimately chose to major in mechanical engineering. But a lot of times, even at engineering schools, at least certainly at Columbia, students do not need to decide the exact type of engineering program that they would like to study before they arrive on campus. And as you can see, some of the clubs that Hope was involved in during her time in terms of the American Society of Mechanical Engineers, also joining one of our sororities on campus and participating in the C Senior Fund. But there are, for many schools, a lot of clubs that will be academic focused that really help students get a sense of some of the work that happens, the types of careers that folks can kind of look towards, as well as really learning from peer students that are interested in those areas. Hope during her time was able to intern with the engineering design co-op at an industrial pumping company, as well as participate in some research that you can see here on the screen, that ultimately led to Hope working now as a graduate management trainee at Anheuser-Busch. So we hope that providing some of these pathways, these stories, are helpful in just getting a sense of how varied they are. And we know that each individual has these unique interests, these unique passions, and that there is no one right way to ultimately go about kind of pursuing a college education within the STEM fields, or ultimately going on to pursuing a career within STEM. At this time, I'm going to put a slide up here that just provides some more information about the 4 schools that are present here today. Again, we acknowledge that we are just 4 of the 32 schools that are part of the STARS network, but just going to leave this slide here for a second if anyone would like to take a kind of screenshot of this and go and kind of pursue some information at a later date. But the course catalog is really going to provide you the comprehensive overview of all of the different courses that are going to be offered at our institutions, and certainly we'll share all of the courses within the STEM departments in particular that are offered there, as well as getting a sense of some of the career advising opportunities, the research programs, our offices of admission if you have questions after this presentation or later throughout your college search process, and as well, we mentioned the organizations. Many students, of course, on college campuses are very involved outside of just taking classes, and so this can help you all get a sense of some of the organizations that are available as well. But that is most of the information that we wanted to share. We do want to make sure that we get to some of your questions. So I am going to go ahead and pose some really wonderful questions that we've received so far, and please feel free to continue submitting questions should you have any at this time. The first question is something that we just touched upon briefly, but I'm curious for folks to share the questions around high schools that really may not offer AP Computer Science, AP Physics, AP Calculus, or maybe even AP classes, IB classes at all. And so this student was curious kind of how this is taken into the consideration when we are making admissions decisions, specifically to competitive engineering STEM programs.
Should I kick things off, Ian?
Go for it, Melissa.
Yeah, so there was a really great question that kind of alluded to this in the chat. We as readers, and also just as STARS partners, right, who are trying to do more to understand and meet the needs of small town and rural students, are doing our best to also equip ourselves with knowledge about your lived experiences. And while we can gather that information through things like your school profile that tells us what type of curriculum is available at your school and things like that, you can also include details in the additional information sections of your college college application as well. But in terms of curriculum, like, your proximity to opportunity with curriculum or to research, or those kind of very obvious and ubiquitous ways of thinking about STEM, we acknowledge that, right? And that's part of our holistic review, is to take that into account and contextualize what you have available to you and what you're doing with what you have available to you, because we know that every single student is different from one another, right? There's no applicants that are the same. So we have partnered with Schoolhouse to make sure that we are trying to expand the accessibility of rigorous curriculum and being able to showcase your preparation for things in things like calculus and physics and chemistry. So check out schoolhouse.world if that's something that interests you in just exploring more of those subjects on your own. But also, yes, know that we are well aware about the different types of opportunity. I've done some research and reading where we see that AP calculus is offered far less frequently in small town and rural communities than it is in metropolitan areas. And that's not something that is the fault of the students, right? So why would we read them in a way that would penalize them for those types of circumstances? So I don't know if folks want to chime in about that, but we are aware. You can also help us by reiterating that in your application. And also through STARS, we hope to be doing more to, again, address and understand the needs of small town and rural students.
Great. Thank you so much, Melissa. This next question I really love. I think this session, of course, has been focused primarily on the STEM fields. But one student asked that they're interested in blending their work in design and the artistic side of some of their extracurricular activities with their academic interest in math and research as an engineer, and curious kind of how to approach that, right? Do students that are interested in STEM have to only be focused on STEM, or for many students that we see that have varied interests across academic disciplines and of course extracurricular activities, any kind of advice or guidance in how we might view an application where we see that?
I can touch on this a little bit, as we see this a lot at Case Western Reserve, and I think it's more common than students realize, is that interest in the arts or in the artistic side of things and engineering are really common for students, and so students really like to be able to do both. And so each institution is probably going to be a little bit different, and at some schools it's going to be very easy to do maybe something like a double major or a major and a minor in different areas, whereas in other institutions that's not going to be possible. So during your research, when you're looking at different institutions, that's one of the things that you really want to look at and understand is, how is the curriculum structured? How are students able to choose a major and a minor, and those types of things? But even if that is the case where you're not able to, do a double major or a minor in those things, you can, do things extracurricular wise that still fulfill those interests that you have. So getting involved in student run clubs and organizations on campus, getting involved in, student run projects are really, really common for students if they don't think that they can necessarily fit it in as another major. So there's always a lot of opportunities. And I think most of the students on our campuses are really passionate about those activities, and so they want to keep doing them throughout college as well. And we really encourage them to do so. So it's just going to make them a broader, well-rounded student overall, whether they're able to do it as a double major or a minor, or if it's something that has to be done in terms of extracurricular. But it is going to be a little bit different probably at each institution.
Great. Thanks, Diane. This next question is around research portfolios. I do know that we mentioned research earlier in the presentation, and certainly if it is available to you and something that is of interest to you throughout your high school career, wonderful. I think our institutions don't necessarily expect that students, even within the STEM fields that have kind of interest in STEM, have already conducted research in high school. But if you have had that opportunity, this question is really around whether schools take into consideration the strength and impact of the research itself, particularly as it relates to maybe balancing out more of the information that we might see around grades and test scores. Curious if anyone has thoughts on that.
So I would say this right here is a part where you can put on the additional information section to let us really know, what it is that you've done and like the impact of what you've done in regards to research. And like Ian has already said, like we don't expect students to have this knowledge base to be able to do these things coming in. But if you have those skills and been fortunate to do that, definitely let us know and put it on the additional information area. And that way we can kind of see what we're working with, and we can kind of get understanding to understand you more and kind of get a feel for what it is that you are wanting to do. I will say at Georgia Tech, we do encourage students to do research in specific at the undergrad levels. You have an opportunity to do some research your freshman year in college all the way until you finish, and even in the postgrad. But that's kind of how I will look question in regards to research. Definitely put it down in the area where it says additional information and really explain to us, what it is that you did. And so that way we can really get a feel for your impact and be able to take into account that for our decision making.
Awesome. Thank you, Antoine. Yeah, really great question here in terms of the kind of differentiation for schools that might offer um, both a Bachelor of Arts and a Bachelor of Science degrees. So just more broadly, if anyone might be able to kind of answer what that difference might be, how a student might go about kind of thinking about that, if that is an option, particularly if there are some kind of STEM majors that maybe are offered as both a BA and a BS.
Sure. I can speak a little bit about this, and if folks want to fill in any gaps, but a Bachelor of Arts stands for, or a BA stands for Bachelor of Arts, a BS stands for Bachelor of Science, and the ways that a different university might kind of format their course selection for either one of those degrees is going to be a little bit different. So with something like a BS, a Bachelor of Science, it might be a bit more technical in terms of quantitative information or coursework requirements, whereas a Bachelor of Arts might be more on a qualitative or a social science analysis sort of lens in the way that you're exploring that field. An example of a degree, maybe something like economics, right? That can be something that can be far more theoretical and statistical with a BS. And then a BA might think of exploring economics in a more social science, humanistic sort of lens. I don't know if folks want to follow up on anything with that.
Yeah, I can go. So
Yeah.
kind of no, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that was great, Melissa. Yeah, I just to give just another example at Columbia, computer science, mathematics. Those are majors that are offered at both the college and the engineering school, and so we do actually require students, right, to choose, do they want to pursue a degree in computer science at either the college or the engineering school. And as Melissa mentioned, the difference there is really the the rest of the curriculum, right, that a student would be participating in. So at least for Columbia, at the engineering school, it's the same exact major, but the other courses that a student would be taking would be much more technical in terms of their preparation, whereas at the college there would be some more kind of humanities courses that are required as part of the general curriculum. Even though you're majoring in a STEM field. But go ahead, Antoine.
No, I was going to say, so at Georgia Tech, everything we have is a Bachelor of Science. So no matter if it's something in fine tech or business or even, computer science or engineering, all of our programs are going to be a Bachelor of Science. So you'll be able to get kind of the scientific approach and those technical skills, and to interwove that with, the arts and the humanities type areas as well. So everything we have is a Bachelor of Science.
Great, thanks. We are getting some questions from a few folks that are really just broadly curious about if there are different types of offerings for some advanced classes, perhaps a dual enrollment through your high school, perhaps through a kind of local college that's separate, but that's also an opportunity, or online courses. And the questions really surrounding what is the best path? And unfortunately, I don't think we can answer that for you. I think that's really ultimately up to you and your interests. And generally, we certainly love to see that you're challenging yourself, that you're able to take rigorous courses within the context of what is provided to you at your school. And your community, and ultimately we will, as the readers of your application, be able to get a sense of that context, and really review your application kind of within that whole lens. So I know that's not maybe the answer that you're hoping for, but ultimately I think we really want to see that you're kind of following the path that feels right for you, and that you're really excited about taking those classes, and it fits in with all of the other activities and responsibilities and everything that kind of goes into your lived experience, your current life at this moment as a high school student. There was a question in regards to where students that are coming from rural and small towns could potentially indicate that they are rural students on any of the applications that we all accept. Is it something that they should explicitly say? Is it something that we will just know from reading their application? Curious if anyone has some thoughts on that question.
Can touch on this a little bit in terms of some different things that we do. We do look at students in terms of where their home address is, and so we look to see, where there is the National Center for Educational NCES. I can't think of the last word. I'm blanking. But they rate each area in terms of its rurality, and so there's different levels to um, how rural an area is, and it goes into small towns and suburban areas, and also urban areas. And so that's one of the ways that colleges will see sort of where you're from and if you are from a rural area. So that's one of the ways. College Board also has a rural student recognition, that is a way to be identified. And then also just, each institution will have a reader that's typically familiar or somewhat familiar with the state or locale that you might be from. And so oftentimes the admission counselor or someone reading your file is somewhat familiar with the state that you're in, the area that you're in. So it's going to be pretty recognizable just from them. But also things come out in other ways. So we look at the high school transcript and we see usually, it'll list like the number of students that are in, or the high school profile, I'm sorry. We'll list the number of students that are in that graduating class. That could be some helpful information. They'll usually list a very small summary of the type of area that the school is within. And so the school will provide, this particular school is in a rural area, 1 hour outside of, Dallas, Texas, whatever it might be. But that kind of gives us some different context in terms of what or where that student is from. So it comes to us in a variety of ways. And so through that holistic admission process, that's how we sort of decide that and then review that application for admission.
Great, thanks, Diane. Okay, I think that might be all the time we have for questions. Thank you all so much for submitting your questions. I'm just going to hold on this slide for a second, so that you all, if you would like to scan this QR code, are welcome to do so. This should take you directly to the STARS College Network website. As we'd mentioned, there's quite a bit of information on this website, particularly as it relates to upcoming events, both virtual events and programming, as well as some of the opportunities to visit our campuses. Many of the application processes for fly-ins and drive-ins are going to open up within the next month. So kind of keeping tabs on this website, if that is of interest to you, please feel free to kind of continue to check back in as we kind of move along throughout the summer. So there are schools within the network that will be offering fly-ins and drive-ins, both for rising juniors as well as rising seniors. So if you fall into either of those categories, then that is something that might be exciting to you. Please feel free to kind of check that out. But with that, I just want to say a huge thank you to Melissa, Diane, Antoine, for sharing all of your expertise this evening with everyone. We really appreciate it. And to all of those of you that have joined us, thank you so much. We certainly hope this was a helpful and informative session, and that you were able to continue to engage with the Stars College Network in the future. But with that, we will close the session, and thank you all so much.